Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Monday afternoon, December 14th. We are looking at the market profile of the SPY ETF here on Window Trader. And I'm telling you, the price action been a little confusing for me. Sounds silly considering we one time frame down since B period for the most part all day. But just didn't feel like a trend day. Believe it or not, a bunch of differences in SPY and ES. SPY has an pull high, ES does not. We also have single prints, so we did have technically a trend day in SPY. It's only 2 little cents all the way up here, but very methodical on this. It was almost like when we grind up these pushes down. We really didn't get any flushes except in K, which gave it back, and then again in M. I was kind of a little biased to finally stop into one-time framing down, which kept me out of shorts, I guess, in the last couple of time frames. I mean, I had a decent day. Did a lot more trading than I should have. Used up a lot of mental reserve on small little trades. But very interesting the last couple of days. Friday, we stretched the bottom of an 8-day balance to make it a 9-day balance. And then today, we get almost to the top of this 9-day balance, fail, and then almost rotate all the way to the bottom of the balance again, because it is a small balance. So we stretched it on Friday to the downside. We got close to it on the upside today. Very interesting action. Let's go to the other ones. The Russell, open drive up to an all-time high, only to come back into the 4-day balance and never get out of it again. As they basically one-time frame down all day too, except for L. They have an afternoon rally high. They also have a price probe to the downside. So they have a couple of things to lean on. You have a price probe and an afternoon rally high, firmly in a 5-day balance in IWM. Triple Q's acted the best, but what did they get for it after D period? And the answer is nothing. Gap higher, held the gap, make their high in D and have a reversal bar, and then spend the rest of the day spinning their wheels to go 12 wide. They at least stopped the one-time framing down the daily, and they never even took back the rest of their trend day from the 9th. They couldn't even get into the upper distribution from the 9th. As far as us, we gap higher. We gap higher. Hold it. But then methodically start taking it back and finally fill it in G period. Very, very weird price action in the SPY today. So as far as my trades, in A period, I took a short when we pushed up to the overnight high, saying 2 things. I thought we would front run the overnight high. I also didn't think we were going to go take out the weekly high right away. Well, we got above it. I added nicely. Actually, it's probably the best trade I made all day. I was long about 70 puts at A's high, came back in, and it worked out nicely. B period, took out A's high, got no traction, took another short. Now I'm trading Friday's expirations. A period was 371 puts. B period was 371 puts. Came back in. I wasn't staying married to it because we were one-time framing up. We had higher value, and we had a gap below us. So it came back into A's range, took it off. C period. Did the same thing. Got up to B's high. I'm sorry. We opened with singles, couldn't take out B's high. Took a short to fill the single prints. Worked out. Then I flipped to a 368 call because we were holding B's low. I said, if we take it out, I get out. That's what happened. Took it off. I lost small on it. Nothing big. But I did not get involved on the short side because I didn't think, now I know the initial balance was small, but I didn't expect us to go and take out the day's low and start doing what we were doing. I'd lie. I'm lying if I expected that. So D period, I actually took a short, but it didn't get much traction, came back up, took it off for a small loss, believe it or not. Then finally, I got back on board again. Shorted D, shorted E, shorted G. So I got short again in D, short again in E, short again in G. And those were the 369s and 368s, and they all worked out. They all worked out. I didn't stay married to them because we weren't getting, yes, we were one-time framing down. C stopped the one-time framing up. D started one-time framing down, but we really weren't getting the tempo that I wanted or the volume. But we finally filled the gap. So I did well on all those shorts. Then I kind of reversed and took a long in I and a long in J because we weren't getting any tempo, and they did pay me. 365 calls. Nothing big, but I got paid. And then I took one more long in L. I could have got out for a little bit of a profit. I really thought because we didn't stop the one-time framing down that we would possibly, and L's range was so small that we might have a reversal bar. So I was long small. I never got out of it. M took out L, started going down. I was like, wow, this isn't working. And took off somewhere in the middle of K's range for a small loss. And that's all I did. So I was green on the day. It was a decent day. But I take pride in reading the market right and seeing it right. And like I said, the way I was neutral Friday afternoon, even though the market was telling me one thing, and believe me, I made money on those shorts, and I made money on those quick longs because we had two-sided trade. We were 6 wide. But I didn't really firmly put it in my head that, hey, we're one-time framing down all day. Stay with the short. Plus value was high and then overlapping a higher all day, which kind of skewed my thinking. So not the best for me as far as how I usually see the day, but it worked out. Destinations for tomorrow. Well, first one's going to be K's low. That's the price probe of 365.68. Then I have my single prints. They're all the way up at 368.01. And they get filled at 02. So all the way up at E's high to C's. They were in D. Then we don't have anything to today's high, 369.80, which inspires a poor high. And then we have the 371.05 weekly high, all-time high, and 371.41 overnight, all-time high. For the downside, we have today's low of 364.70. Then we don't have anything to Friday's low, which is a weekly low of 363.26, and filling the gap at 363.12, if I could find it, wherever it was, filling the gap all the way back here. Here it is, I'm sorry. And then below that, we have 361.22, 9 wide from November 30th, 360.66 afternoon pullback low from November 30th, and 359.17 weekly low, and then filling another small gap at 358.82, a 35-point gap from November 24th. Now, let's go to the charts, because there is some danger lurking for the bulls if they don't right the ship. Pretty disappointed in them today. Now, let's go to the monthly. We're one-time framing up in the monthly out of an inside month for 2 months. We closed at 364.66. We dip below it again. Actually, we didn't dip below it today. But look, last month's high is 364.38. You want to stay out of that for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to show you why as we go forward. Well, number one, last week's low is 363.26. So if we get acceptance into last month's range, well, then the odds of maybe stopping the one-time framing up are good. And if you stop that, now the intermediate time frame is back into balance instead of one-time framing. Now, we talk about getting distance. We didn't get it these 3 weeks in a row. Then we finally did 2 weeks ago. And now last week and so far today, not getting any distance from it. So is the trend slowing? Is it tiring? Well, if we take out last week's low, it certainly would put an end to the one-time framing up. And then on the daily, same thing. It's a 10-day balance. But here's the previous all-time high. We spent 14 days inside of it. So if, it's a big if, but if we get acceptance into that and stop the one-time framing up in the weekly, that means we fill this gap, there's acceptance into here, and then possibly, you're going to start looking to the other end of that balance, which is 350. The 50-day moving average keeps moving up. It's up to where are we? 351.85. So incredibly, the 50-day moving average is now up above the bottom of this 14-day balance. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but everything has to be put on the table. And it's weak what the bulls did today. To gap higher, get to the top of a balance. It's one thing to fail at the top of the balance. And I know it's not a huge balance, but to give it all back and almost trade to the bottom of it, pretty weak. 57 million shares. So the volume didn't confirm any gap higher. It also didn't confirm this move down as far as being, flush. We did good volume in M period. We did 13 million shares. That's pretty interesting. So what's going on? Well, quite simply, I think this was a lot of shorts pushing down. But remember, anybody who's still long here for 10 days, if we take out Friday's low, well, whoever's still long is going to abandon ship, and you're going to get the shorts pushing down into this balance. So something to be made aware of. I hope you had a good day trading. Have a great night, and we'll speak prior to the opening tomorrow.